listening to Tonebender's Sound Design Podcast, presented by Sound Ideas. This is the show where we talk with the sonic artists behind our favorite films, games, and series. If summer has your next project heating up, Sound Ideas is making it easier to build up the library you'll need. During the Sound Ideas mid-year sale, you can save 50% on all proprietary items. From impacts and ambiances to vehicles, animals, machinery, production elements, and specialty effects, you can stock up on these professional sounds before your next deadline hits. Get ahead of the edit with sounds ready for any scene, transition, texture, and any surprise that may come your way. Shop the 50% off mid-year sale now at sound-ideas.com. Hello and welcome to Tonebenders. My name is Tim Muirhead, and I will be your host today as we talk about the Emmy-nominated sound of RuPaul's Drag Race with the re-recording mixers Eric Venezuela and Sal Ojeda. This is a bit of different territory for Tonebenders, and I think it's a really fun talk. Eric and Sal were nominated in the category of Outstanding Sound Mixing for a reality program. But before we get to that, I want to tell you about Sound Day LA, easily the biggest event Tonebenders has ever put on. If you're in the LA area on August 9th, this is an event you won't want to miss. Sound Day LA will be a full afternoon of panel talks and deep dives with the sound teams behind some of my favorite shows, including Stranger Things, The Pit, Spider Noir, Widow's Bay, Pluribus, Hacks, Shrinking, DTF St. Louis, and more. Mark Mangini will be our special guest host. There will be raffles for some great sound-related prizes, as well as food and coffee breaks throughout the day to hang out with your sound colleagues. If you're not in Los Angeles, all the talks will be coming out on the Tonebenders and In-Depth Sound Design feeds following the event. But if you can make it, register now. The response already has been overwhelming and it's filling up fast. Use the link in the episode description in your podcast app to claim your spot now. Big thanks to Sound Day LA's event sponsor, Remoto Playback. Pitch-perfect remote review sessions without a monthly subscription. Go to remotopro.io to learn more. Okay, let's talk Sound for Reality series with Eric Valenzuela and Sal Ojeda from RuPaul's Drag Race. This is a show nominated for its 18th season. I guess first off, it's quite unusual for any show to even have 18 seasons, but it's even stranger for this show to be becoming more complex instead of kind of mailing it in the 18th season. Like, this show is really hitting on all cylinders currently. Sal, on IMDb, it has you down for having mixed 75 different episodes of Drag Race, and Eric, it lists you as 189 episodes. This is a pretty great gig for you guys. Eric, maybe you can answer this question first. How has the show evolved or changed since you first started working on it?
Wow, that's a great question. I started on season 1, and just seeing how I would say the sets have gotten more complex, a much better set. Just, I think, more excitement around the show in itself, where the contestants are really putting a lot more heart and soul into it, I would say, just with like their costume designs or, even some of them being incredibly talented singers or musicians and stuff, and displaying that kind of aspect of drag, which people just think that, drag queens just do lip syncing and stuff, where some of them are on Broadway now after doing the show and stuff. So the queens are more entertaining with a higher range of talent. And that's just really exciting to see. And just on the technical sense, much better camera work and complex miking technique, I would say, because of costumes and stuff that you could see, like, bearing a mic or whatever. I think that our production sound team does their best to do what they can to get us good audio. And I applaud them for that, because this show, people are dancing, jumping, falling into dunk tanks sometimes and stuff, and just able to connect and get all that content hands off to everybody involved, I'd have to say, for sure.
And Sal, how has the show evolved maybe from a more audio perspective for you in your 85 episodes?
Yeah, it's been great to see how the show has also evolved at the same time that the art of drag has evolved as well. And I think there's been a lot of feedback going on, right? like from the show to the culture and the other way around.
Yeah.
So, like Eric mentioned, not only the challenges have been more complex and the level of artistry has been increasing every single season, we just have to adapt with new technology, new tools. I always try to be on top of what's been released that could help us get the best sound possible for the show. It's been fun to watch and experience at the same time. Since I started, it seems like the bar gets higher and higher every season. And although some of the challenges for the queens are like fan favorites, like the Rusical, there's also some new stuff coming in every season that we have to kind of like learn and see what the style is, so we can mix it accordingly and solve any of the challenges that come with it.
Well, that's interesting. Part of the conceit of the show is every episode there's a new challenge.
Right.
Sonically, what are your favorite challenges? What are the ones that maybe challenge you the most, to continue the word challenge? Eric, do you have a favorite or maybe even a least favorite?
I would say the challenging ones for me, I'll start with that first, are when they do like stand up. Because you're trying to make it sound like a live show where, they're in front of an audience at like a comedy store or stuff. And some queens aren't great at sticking to the mic, if the mic's right in front of them. So everybody's loud, which is great and stuff. But like I said, sometimes it might be buried under a chest plate or something, or tucked away far away, where if they have a really open top, it's real low or far away. They tape them to their chest, but it might be buried. So just trying to keep a good, consistent quality, like nothing changes in tones. I'd say those are the challenging stuff. You want to always hear everybody perfectly, and that's where like they might go into talking into secret voice or stuff. You want to raise that up so they don't have to subtitle everything. And as far as the challenges that I like the impersonation challenges, where they do impersonations of famous people, because that's when you really see what queen is funny, creative. It's not like I'm a judge or anything, but I'm watching the show. I'm being entertained by it too. And it's just really cool to see those queens that do have talent or are quick-witted, good comedic timing. That's really cool to see. I get a kick out of watching those. And then, of course, everybody likes the musical and stuff where queens can look good in the dress, but can they dance?
Right.
Can they sing? It's like you can't hide behind the makeup or costume. They really make you go out there and dance and sing and be funny or whatever it is, and so that's the entertaining part of the show. There's like a lot of stuff that they do that is fashion forward, and it's just really cool to see people's artistic expression in fashion. So I enjoy the show for many reasons.
Well, you better have. You've been working on it for over a decade.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Sal?
I guess for me is, I'm a comedy junkie. So whenever there's like a stand-up comedy or like a roast, those are my favorite to watch as a fan, of the show or as an audience. And my favorite to work on, I guess, was when they have any element live. Like some queens play the violin, piano, or like even singing. That's always a fun challenge, to mix those live elements into the rest of the show.
You mentioned the Rusical, which for anyone who's not a follower of the show is their version of musical. So the way that it gets produced is they lip sync the final production of the musical. But there's also a scene, an act earlier in the show showing them recording all of their vocals. But they're not in a recording studio in a pristine booth, like with a pop filter. They're kind of on a stage in a giant open room recording these vocals. Where do these recordings go before they get to you, and how do you deal with them to get the room out of them, or what's the process there?
Do you want to take it out?
You can take it.
They are recorded on that stage, so there's no preferential treatment done to the audio because it's competition. So as they're singing it and stuff live, on stage, we kind of have to leave it that way. But the polished version that goes into the end, there's a little bit of production that's done by the music team to make it sound good and stuff. But the stuff on stage where they're trying to hit those certain music notes, that's them, and we can't really like fix it. We have to leave it because that's kind of like part of the competition.
Yeah, there's actually been times when queens lose their voice from previous challenges, and now they have to sing, and it is what it is, you know. Obviously, the music producers try to help them out so everyone can sound their best. But there's been cases where the previous episode they had to shout the entire episode, and someone loses their voice, and they have to sing like that. So, like Eric mentioned, it is a competition, and it's one of the challenges of doing a show like that.
On this show, Tonebenders, I get to talk to people who mix like humongous films, and they talk about these very luxurious mixing schedules of like months long. I'm assuming that Drag Race doesn't have quite that kind of time frame. Can we talk a bit about the schedule of how much time you guys have on the stage per episode and what kind of goes into the day?
For the most part, we get like 6 to 8 days, hopefully, for each episode. I mean, the hardest part is, Sal could attest to this, is just splitting out the audio because there is a ton of mics in there with the different contestants, ton of sound effects, and all the music and stuff. So just getting through all the audio in the AF and, track managing it into your template. Like for me, that was always like the part I hate because it takes long. But then once you get through that, cutting dialogue and cleaning up the effects and music, that's not as tough because it's pretty much well laid out for us. And we definitely need the full week to get through the show because some of these are 63 minutes of content. So there's a lot of stuff that you have to go through and clean up and just sound good before you do your mix. So it's a good six days, right, Sals?
Yeah, exactly. So the process is Eric takes the files and he puts it in our template, and then he sends the project to me. I do the first editing and mixing pass of the whole show, and then I send it back to him, and he does a second pass, and then notes, reviews, updates. He finishes the show, and we came up with this system years ago, just because there's so much content all the time that we have to kind of like keep rolling at all times. So that way, I can just concentrate on one thing, and Eric can concentrate on some other things. That's how it's been working for a few years now. Yeah.
So you're not just the re-recording mixers, you're doing all the post. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I didn't realize that. That's wow. You guys are really working, to use a drag queen phrase.
They output weekly or so we have to stay on top of delivery schedules, STEM schedules. I have to pull stuff for promos. They might say, oh, we need, this stuff, this episode or this part for promos or mid-season promos, whatever. There's always stuff that has to go on. So thankfully, Sal could just keep chugging along while I start taking care of the special needs of the producers and the client, to deliver the stems, watch it down, mix notes, changes, music changes sometimes.
Conforms.
It's always constantly moving and stuff. So just to stay on top of it, me and Sal have a great system of backing each other up and always delivering on time.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, that's the main thing. Always delivering on time and passing QC, hopefully at the first try.
Oh, QC, that's a whole nother conversation, I'm sure.
I know, right?
Hey everybody, I'm jumping in here to remind you all that the Tonebenders listener field recording stories call for submissions is still on. To take part, send in a recording that you have captured that you really, really love, along with the story of why you love it so much. It can be a sound that took a lot of effort to record, or something that was just a glorious accident, a sound that is universally thought of as beautiful, or something that just has special meaning to you. It cannot even be the sound you were meaning to record. Also, everyone that participates will be entered into a draw to win one of 2 O-Mini high-sensitivity miniature omnidirectional microphone pairs from Chris Trevino. For full details on how to enter and to hear the listening field recording episodes from 2024 and 2025, go to tonebenderspodcast.com or click the link in this episode's description in your podcast app. Submissions close on August 15th. So let's hear what you got, everybody. This is a question that I am always just in absolute awe of. How do you guys get all of the dialogue so clean? There are scenes where there's like 6 queens sitting on a couch, all with like hip to hip to hip to hip, all talking at the same time. How like when you get that AAF, how do you tackle that?
I'm going to say there's always this separation between the editor who's cutting the show and us. We get it and it's like, okay, here, we're done with it. And thankfully, one of their post soups, who is awesome, Travis DeCola, I was able to contact and connect with the editors. And I said, could you guys please always put the queens on the same tracks? And if you could, name those tracks. And then for us, once I do a couple episodes, I get to know the queens. That's so and so. I mute everybody else and I make sure that I can on what's on scene and what they're saying on camera. I make sure we could hear that. And then any response necessary, like all the queens said, ooh, great. We just need the good ones that are that we could see happen on screen. And that way it's just not cluttered. But if you don't need to hear them, we mute them. It's just who the essentials are on camera, whoever responded. And then that way it sounds nice. And then if everybody's saying, oh, good for you, that'll be picked up by multiple mics. So, you could just get every other mic when you could see them lined up and you get everybody's response because there's a lot of bleed.
Yeah, exactly.
Queens, they know that when they talk, they get camera time. So, boy, they just talk over each other sometimes.
Yeah.
And, part of reality TV.
Exactly. More on a technical side, auto align has been great, ever since it came out for everyone in the industry, really. In our case, syncing or, like aligning the other mics to the main one, because we don't get a boom a lot of times. It's just laughs. But being able to face align those other mics to the queen that is talking the most, that's been very, very helpful, because then you can use those little responses and kind of like cut around it, but it's going to sound good. It's not going to face out or have a comp filtering effect or anything like that. So that's been very, very helpful in the last few years, ever since AutoAlign came out. And then, for example, in my case, if I have time, I go back to some of those scenes in the workroom, and I try to find, like little reactions of the other queens here and there, just to kind of like add more liveness to it. And, sometimes they just listen, which is surprising.
What I like about the show is that it seems to be either everybody talking or long, awkward silences. Like, there's very little in between. And the awkward silences work so well because of all the dialogue that go on before and after it. It's a very comedic thing.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm wondering if we can talk a bit about the show is obviously about being fabulous. There are moments where audio gets to be fabulous. An example is when RuPaul says that someone's got a lip sync for their life and the word life gets a little reverb trail out on it and stuff like that. Are there any other fun kind of audio moments where you get to up the drama with some mixing tricks?
Yeah, it's funny. A lot of the sound effects have become iconic now, even like in memes and social media, the tuk, 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 that kind of thing, that clip. Every now and then I'm on social media and I see something and it's like, oh, that's funny. They made this a meme now. I guess an iconic thing would also be at the end. Can I get an amen up in here? Amen. And so that's also a good moment to kind of like open almost everyone's mic and just kind of let it breathe,
Definitely that amen thing. That's when you're it's like, oh, I'm done with the show.
Yes.
Some of these shows are really tough. But yeah, like I like the finale is a fun mix also because that has a live feel to it.
Yes.
A lot of reverb being going on with the VO just to make it sound nice and big. Like, they're almost at like Dodger Stadium or something, just to make it feel big in the room. And a lot of these things, like we already have it built into our template because they happen on every episode. So I think some of it just becomes like just a part of the show where, like in the middle of the show or like towards the end of the show, when they're getting ready for the main part of the show for the lip sync or the judging part, that little moment that they have where they talk about personal stuff. And that's where things might get like, it's not more of a funny show. It's more of a personal thing that's happened. And they do that a lot in the show just to bring out some of the tough times or hard things that it takes to be at that place where they are at now.
Well, that's what makes the show work for sure, is that it's not just silly comedy and lip syncing. There's real emotions going on and people going through really tough times in their life that have
Sure.
used this art of Drag Race to lift themselves up.
Right.
And it's impressive.
It's amazing how Ru always tells the queens to try to and open up and like lower their defenses and their barriers so their personality and their story can come out and shine, you know. And usually that's when you notice, you know, a shift in someone that is just a contender, a participant, and someone that turns into a contender for the title, you know. I guess for me, another aspect of mixing this show that it's fun to do is in different moments in every episode, we tend to mix the music a little bit higher than in other spots, to the point where we sometimes we have the music and the dialogue mix almost like a vocal in a song, you know, just to kind of like add more energy to certain moments of the episode. Like Eric mentioned, when we go to the more like, you know, serious sections of the show, then you have the room or the bandwidth to bring everything down and give the audience time to breathe before, you know, the lip sync, you know, which is usually high energy, pumped up with all the bells and whistles, you know.
Well, that leads me to a question. One of the things that I'm most impressed about when I watch Drag Race is just how smooth it is. A simple thing, well, it's not simple at all, but to the audience, the simple thing of while they're doing the lip sync for their life, you hear little comments from the judges while this huge music is happening. And you don't feel the music drop to let RuPaul whisper a little something to the person beside. Like, it feels smooth in a way that can't be easy to make it like that. Like, when you're watching it, you don't think about it, but then you think back, how the hell did they do that? So I don't even know how you can comment on that. I just wanted to let you know that I was very impressed by it. But if you have any tips or tricks on how you go about that, please let us know.
When they are doing that part, I'm glad you noticed that, because that is really tough. Because what's happening on stage is they're playing the song so they could lip sync to it over speakers, so everybody could hear it. You don't want that too loud, because we have the production music, the actual song that's going to play so it sounds great. What I like to use in those situations is Clear Pro, and I cut out the ambience 100%, just all the way, run the dial on maybe Ru saying, wow, she's really putting it all out there, because there's music playing over him saying that. But if he reaches over and just whispers that to Michelle, you try to raise that up, then it brings up the music that's coming up from the overheads, which it's going to sound weird with the production music that's super clean.
Totally.
And a lot of times it cuts out all the music from the background, and we can just hear that, where, I could still bring it up and it still sounds like a whisper, like, oh, wow, she's doing great tonight or whatever. Because that has been a challenge at times, where they're like, oh, bring up that response. And you're like, ooh, crap. It has a lot of music built all around it. Sound is going to come in, phase out a little bit, and then go back out. And you're going to be noticeable. And that's like the thing that we really try to do, is when we're mixing something, there can't be ever anything that sticks out where you're like, oh, that was weird. Because if you do, then you have to work on it a little bit more. So you're like, okay, that sounds natural. And that's part of the challenge of the show, all the moving parts, but you still want to feel organic, which is not easy sometimes when so much is going on.
And going back to, more technical stuff, as the show evolves, also technology, right? So, in the last few years, we've been using Clear is great, Hush, spectral layers lately, Akon Remix is great to remove music bleed, and anything else, it's still in there. You can paint it out with RX, and still keep it feeling natural. That's why we're always looking at, the newest tools for music, for dialogue, for anything, because you never know what could be handy.
You guys are blowing my mind that you're using all these tools and cleaning all this up on the schedule that you described, mixing while editing, and you guys are killing it. I'm confused as to when you sleep, but it's impressive. For my last question, I just want to ask you kind of something maybe a little outside the realm of audio, but it must be so great for both of you to work on a show that's just all about positivity and like joy. Like, obviously someone gets voted off every episode, but like the main feeling of the show is about positivity and joy and camaraderie. And it must be really great to just be part of putting that out in the world.
I agree. And you know what? I do see that. I'm glad that you see that in the show because it is there. And I think Rue's message, which I love, is bring out the best in yourself. And something that I even tell my kids, I mean, I love this thing. It's my favorite one is if you can't love yourself, how in the hell are you going to love somebody else? You know what I'm saying? And that's so true. So like, be great because when you're great, you're going to put out happiness and feel good about yourself, and you're going to be inspirational to other people and stuff. But you can't be your own enemy. Like Rue says, like, why are you putting up barriers for yourself? Clear those barriers and go out there and do your best, be your best. It's very true about this show is it does have a lot of messages to sometimes people who don't have the highest self-esteem, because of what they went through in life. And then, like I said, during those moments in the show where they do say stuff, you're just like, oh, wow, that's really tough. That really, that's a tough way to go through life, or that's a tough situation that person had to get through. But then, like Sal says, then you see that spark in them and they're like, yeah, I am going to do good. And then they end up going to the end of the show. They may not win the show, but they were a runner up to win. And then all of a sudden you see them on The Tonight Show, or, you see them on Broadway, writing Broadway plays or starring in Broadway plays and stuff, or putting out their own, like Trixie Mattel, put out her own country music album. And if you listen to it, it's pretty goddamn good. It's a little folky for me, but you're like, hell yeah, man. That's awesome. That little springboard in their career to do these bigger and greater things, or they go on the road with the Drag Race show that goes around the world. They're out there working and bettering their careers or expanding their careers. And I think that's just, a great part of the show.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly how I feel as well. And also it's great that, a show like this gives you a window into a different world, because I mean, we're two straight guys working on a show about drag queens, right? It's been great to see what the community is all about, the struggles that at the end of the day is the same struggles as anyone can have, It's just in the different setting, in the different location, maybe it just creates empathy, It gives you the opportunity to also grow and learn from people that are just maybe different than you, or have a different background, or do something completely different than what you do. But at the end of the day, we're all going through the same troubles in life. It maybe to someone that is experiencing something similar could be like, oh, well, I'm not alone, Like you said, Tim, it's not only the fun and the comedy and the lip sync, it's also what you end up with at the end of each episode. If a show can do that, even better,
Well, I've never worked on a reality show, so I've been very fascinated to hear how it works, and to hear the schedule and to hear all the work you're putting into it. It's actually inspiring, much like a drag queen might have inspired someone watching the show. So thank you for being so awesome, and it was great to meet you both, and hopefully we can have you on the show again soon.
Right on. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Make sure you sign up for Sound Day LA with the link in this episode's description. If you're going to be in the LA area on August 9th, I've teamed up with In-Depth Sound Design and Mark Mangini to make this day one I don't think you're going to want to miss. My name is Tim Muirhead. Thanks for listening to Tone Benders. If summer has your next project heating up, Sound Ideas is making it easier to build up the library you'll need. During the Sound Ideas mid-year sale, you can save 50% on all proprietary items. From impacts and ambiances to vehicles, animals, machinery, production elements, and specialty effects, you can stock up on these professional sounds before your next deadline hits. Get ahead of the edit with sounds ready for any scene, transition, texture, and any surprise that may come your way. Shop the 50% off mid-year sale now at sound-ideas.com. Tonebenders is produced by me, Timothy Muirhead. Theme music is by Jim Guthrie. You can reach me via email through info@tonebenderspodcast.com. Follow Tonebenders on Instagram to stay on top of new episodes. If you like the show, you can help us out by spreading the word to your friends and colleagues, or leave us a tip. Just go to tonebenderspodcast.com and click support.